Good evening, good night, good morning, wherever you are. And today we're talking about Walking Dead. Hopefully this live stream kicks in a second and we don't have any technical problems, which seems to be what always tends to happen to me. How is everybody doing tonight? Everybody good? Yeah, so we're going to be talking about the Walking Dead episode tonight. For those of you that have already seen it, we're going to be full spoilers ahead. For those of you that haven't, I recommend you do watch it. Really solid episode overall. I was really pleased with everything going on. I really liked the introduction of the kingdom. I liked everything that they set up. They're setting up a lot of different things in this episode. This episode was weird for a lot of fans out there. Yeah. This episode was weird for a lot of fans simply because if you were a fan of syndicated TV show and TV shows that like are The Walking Dead, you're used to things going boom, 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 boom. You're used to things going at a really fast pace. This episode, after last week's episode, was very much needed in the sense that you needed that downshift. You needed that thing to build characters up. You needed that kind of element in order for you to go back, reflect on everything, and breathe, and taking a breath of fresh air and introduce some of the other characters that are going to play a much larger role later on as the series progresses. So I really did enjoy that aspect of it. I do wish we got to see a little bit more of what happened with Negan's group and what happened with Rick's group, because that was a real pivotal moment, and that was a huge moment that happened last week. So them not showing that, I was a bit disappointed in that. I thought we would at least get maybe some cutbacks, maybe some interaction between Negan and Rick, things like that, some flash forwards, and things in that vein. We didn't get that, unfortunately. I was really hoping for that. But I think what they're going to be doing is, and I really hope they don't go this route, one episode will definitely be an episode focusing on Negan and his group and the fights between Rick, and another episode will be the Kingdom stuff, and they'll be kind of intermixing things, and they'll be going back and forth between all that stuff, and eventually until they crash into each other. It was a good episode overall. It was a real cool episode. Let's start from the beginning. First things first, you have Carol. Carol is now located in the kingdom right now. Really like that. I really like her introduction with Ezekiel, them showing the whole tiger, and they kind of address the whole absurdity of it, having a tiger in the zombie apocalypse. They address all that stuff head on. I really did like that. I thought that was really cool, and it was a smart way to go about it. Ezekiel even addresses it in the episode that says, look, maintaining a tiger, the maintenance on it is absolutely but ridiculous. Like, it's crazy for me to maintain a tiger in the middle of the zombie apocalypse, but she does come in handy. And I like that they really fast forwarded a lot of stuff in the comics, because you really don't find out who Ezekiel really is in the comics until farther down along the storyline. You don't find out that he's a zookeeper and that he's really just putting on a bit of an act for everybody. And I'm glad that they not necessarily didn't hold back on that, but I'm glad that they addressed it straight on, because I do think it's an important aspect of the character. I think it's really great that they're doing that. Cyborg got himself a tiger. Yeah, Cyborg did get himself a tiger. That was really cool. But overall, what did you guys think of the episode? You're getting the compendium soon. Good. The compendium is a great way to read it. I think they had a sale going on this past week for a ridiculously good price for the compendium. And if I'm not mistaken, Barnes & Noble's had a buy two, get one free. You can pick up the first two compendiums, and then you get the third one for free. So go with that. Yeah, I prefer the hardcover formats of it. But I thought this was a really solid and strong episode overall. In some ways, I like it more than last week's episode. And I know that's going to be blasphemous for a lot of people to say, but I really did enjoy this in some ways more than last week's episode, because this was more of a breath of fresh air. They took their time. They paced it out well. Everything was set up well. You get the interaction with Ezekiel, with the other group of survivors and things like that. I really did enjoy that. I think that was probably the strongest part of the episode. And that guy taking that punch to the face, man, you could tell just the frustration and the look on his face is like, oh my God, I want to hit this guy so badly. I know I can knock him out because he's really just a punk, you know? And he held back. It was really cool. But I think that's going to come to a blow. Oh, shout out to my new favorite character on the show. How great was Jerry? Jerry is my new favorite character on the show. Oh my gosh, man. I love the fact that they're starting to introduce more upbeat and uplifting characters and characters that you can actually root for and characters that you're like, you know what, I like this guy. You know, he's a little bit more upbeat. Yes, the world's gone to shit. Yes, you're in the middle of a zombie apocalypse, but Jerry is really my favorite character that they introduced this episode. I thought Jerry was freaking awesome. I forgot what he says, but he's like, gives her the peace sign and everything. Oh, awesome. Awesome, awesome. Jerry's my man. Jerry is the new Daryl for me. If Jerry dies, I riot. It'll be a small riot, but still, it'll be a riot. Ben. Okay, what's the over-under for how long we think Ben's going to last? 4 episodes? 3? You know he's not going to make it to the end of this. There's no way Ben is going to make... Ben, you had one job. You had one job, Ben. You had to kill a zombie. Not a whole herd. Not like a whole pack or 5 or 6. A zombie. And you miss. You miss. Oh my gosh. Ben is the kid in middle school that you put up the gutter lanes for them in bowling and they still get a gutter ball somehow. Oh my goodness. Godly. I don't think Ben's going to make it too long in this series. I mean, they're setting up things with him as well. Like his father was this big zombie killer. He was really important. You know, he was really big in the community. But, you know, yeah, Ben's a disappointment overall. I'm really, honestly, I think the biggest standout of this episode was definitely going to be the actor that portrayed Ezekiel. Hats off to him. I thought he absolutely nailed that character, and he absolutely nailed that everything that Ezekiel was right there in that one episode. I loved it. I loved every single moment that actor was on screen. He absolutely knocked it out of the park. He kind of portrays Ezekiel in the same way that you see him in the comics, where he's very confident, he's very self-aware, he's very into the group that he's in, and he's very much a protector of this group. But at the same time, he's putting on a face for the people that are in the group. Because deep down inside, he's even thinking, look, these people really need somebody to look up to. I'm not perfect. I know I mess up. I've had, I wasn't exactly the biggest thing in the world when I was a zookeeper and all this stuff. I kind of just stumbled upon this and I ran with it. And I really do like that. I think that them addressing that head on in the first episode that Ezekiel is in is a great primer for the rest of the season, because it sets up a lot of the tone and it sets up a lot of what's going to happen later on in the season involving the character. Really, really solid stuff. Morgan getting some love also. Morgan's really cool this season. I'm enjoying kind of the banter between him and Carol. I really hope that Morgan isn't a character that they're just going to kind of scoot off to the back seat the rest of the season, because in this episode, yeah, he kind of had a role in here, but he really wasn't that prominent, because we've seen what happens to characters that they kind of decide to shuffle off into the background as the seasons go on. They typically end up dying. I'm hoping that's not the case here, because I think Morgan as a character still has a lot of room to grow. Will we see that? Don't know, but judging by this episode, we might not be seeing too much of that. I think Morgan is a character that his arc is starting to come to a close. But yeah, what did you guys think of the episode? I mean, as far as numbers go, you know what? I'm going to give this one a 9. I really am. I'm giving this one a 9. I know I'm probably going to lose, like, oh my gosh, fuck you and all this other stuff. How could you give this episode a 9 and last week like an 8.5 and everything? I think I've made myself clear why I like this episode a little bit more than last week's episode. And if I were to score this one, I think I would give it a solid 9. I really do like the character interactions. I really like the banter between Ezekiel and Carol and all that stuff. I really did enjoy that stuff. So if I were to give it, I'd give it a solid 9. You think King Ezekiel and Sasha will hook up? No, I don't think that's where they're going. I think if anything, come on, they hinted at it at the end of the episode when King Ezekiel shows up to Carol's door with a tiger and a fruit. They hinted at that's the relationship they're going to go with. And I'm actually excited to see that. I'm excited to see where they go with that. And it's from a perspective of, like King Ezekiel says, look, you can't bullshit a bullshitter. You can fool some people, but you can't fool me. He sees right through that, and she saw right through it as well. So in a way, they're kind of meant for each other. You want to know the most unrealistic thing about that episode was the fact that they had a choir in it, and not one single minority was in that choir. I mean, never mind. No, they had one. They had one guy in the background that was black in the choir, and I'm like, you didn't have. No, that took me out of the episode. I pointed that out. I was like, really, you got a choir and only one minority in there? I've been to too many Spanish churches as a kid to know the difference. I'm sorry. I just called that out when I saw it. But yeah, that was my biggest quip of the episode. Any other problems that I had with the episode? Like I've already said, I would have liked to have seen Negan again. I think he was such a powerful presence on last week's episode that that for them to have not shown him this week, I was like, oh man, I really wanted more Negan. Negan's really the character that I'm itching to get to more of in the season. But we got King Ezekiel, so that was a good consolation prize for me, King Ezekiel was good enough where I was like, yeah, I'm enjoying this. Is next week a Savior episode? Have they confirmed that? I mean, we saw it in the previews that we've got Daryl pretty much locked up in Negan's Guantanamo Bay, and he's wearing a sack over his body. We saw that for next week's episode, and I'm really excited for next week's episode because it does seem we're going to actually get a look inside of the Savior compound, and we're going to get to see a lot of cool stuff in there. So I'm really looking forward to that. If you're a fan of Spoiling Dead, and obvious we have to see it at some point, but they've confirmed that we will actually be in Negan's compound at some point in this season. Yeah, they showed that Negan is in next week, and it seems like Negan is a very prominent character in next week's episode, more so than Rick. I'm really hoping that they're not going to delay too much, or they're not going to hold off us seeing what's going on with Rick's group for another episode. I really hope that on next week's episode, we're going to be able to see, okay, here's Rick, here's Negan, here's Rick, here's Negan, and it's going to bounce back and forth, kind of like what they did in the season premiere. I hope they go that route. I hope so, fingers crossed, because I think it'd be disappointing if they didn't, and it was just a Negan-centric episode. Don't get me wrong, I love Negan, I love the character, I love everything he's about, but, I want to see the fallout of what happened with Rick and the gang. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I don't know if they'll do the wives thing. You got to think about it. It is AMC, and the whole wives situation. Who knows if they're gonna actually go for it? Who knows if not? Because that could be a lot of controversy that AMC really isn't wanting. So I don't know if they're gonna go with that, especially nowadays with, let's just call it for what it is, the social justice keyboard warriors and things like that. Let's call it for what it is. They would definitely have a problem with the whole situation of Negan having multiple women every single night. Even though he technically doesn't consider it rape, it's still messed up. As long as they describe it well, I really don't think they're going to do it. I honestly don't think they're going to do it. And Negan is very much a character that he is against rape. He's flat out says it. Look, I hate rape. I am 100% against it and all this other stuff. The women come to me willingly, and I use that term very loosely if you've read the comics. And I really don't think they're going to show it. No, Negan's said it. He's up and said it. Yeah, and I know the issue that you're talking about. I know the whole situation that you're talking about involving Alpha and all that stuff. I am pretty up to date right now as far as comics goes. So, but that's something that I don't think AMC is going to allow them to cross the line. Granted, they just showed a man getting their head beaten into a bloody pulp a few hours last week, but I don't think they're going to allow that. Because you got to think, censorship rules in the United States are really weird. They're weird in the sense that, like last week, you could show a man's head being pretty much bashed into the point where it's pudding, but you can't show a guy cussing. You can't show a person say the word shit or fuck on TV, but you can show a guy's head being beaten in with a bat. So it's kind of weird in that aspect. But they're not going to show that. I'm telling you. There's no way they're going to show that stuff. No. Kirkman's way too smart. Kirkman's not just going to turn Negan into just a flat-out rapist. They are not going to go that route. Because that would be, in a lot of ways, that'd be too much. You already have a character that a lot of fans love to hate, and I think if you just make him like, oh, he's a flat-out rapist, you're going to push the fans onto a just complete, I hate this guy level. Right now, he's more at a stage, I think. Right now, if I were to place Negan, he's more at a place right now where the fans love to hate him. They love to see more of him, and they're really interested in his story and his background and his compound. But for them to say, oh, he's just a flat-out rapist, that would just push fans over the edge, and they'd be like, yeah, just get rid of this guy. We don't want anything to do with this character anymore. We just want you to kill him. I think you have to be able to walk a fine line with this character more so than the Governor. The Governor was a character that you can easily hate. Negan, even in the comics, you hate him to a certain extent, but you do see his point of view, and you do see how he's built up this whole society around him and how he has worked from the ground up. Negan came from the ground up. He was a gym coach, and then he decided to build the Saviors and build this compound and everything. And in that aspect, you kind of have to respect him because he did build everything from nothing. And then here comes Rick's group, and he's going to shake his foundation, and he's going to shake pretty much everything that has been going on for Negan. Think about it from this angle. If the sides were flipped, if Negan came with his band and decided to change everything that Rick was doing, and Rick was in Negan's shoes, Rick would probably do the exact same thing. So from that aspect, it's really interesting, and the characters aren't that different. Yeah, and the Governor was somebody that you absolutely had to hate. With Negan, you really need to walk a fine line. You need to walk a line where you love to hate the character. You love to see him on screen. If you just go that direction that you just said, you're going to push fans over to the other side where they don't want anything to do with him. They just hate him. Granted, there are some fans out there right now that they absolutely hate Negan, can't wait to see him absolutely get killed. And when we're 3-4 seasons down the line, which you know we probably will be, that that they're going to be like, all right, so are you actually going to kill this guy? Because we're used to Walking Dead having 1 to 2 seasons, boom, you kill off the main bad guy. No, Negan is here to stay. I can guarantee you that. Negan is here to stay for a very, very long time. It's going to be a while before they get rid of Negan because we're 50, 60 plus issues in past Negan's first appearance in Walking Dead 100, and he's still around. We are not getting rid of Negan anytime soon. I'm telling you that right now. We still haven't even gotten to All Out War. We have All Out War. We have the lead up to All Out War, which I'm pretty sure this is what this season is all about, and next season is going to be All Out War. And then you have the Whisperer's arc. And then you have Negan's involvement in the Whisperer's arc. And you have the build-up to the Whisperer's arc. I would say you've got about 3 good seasons right there and all that. And then Lord knows where else they're going to take the whole Negan situation in the comics. So I'm saying we've got about three solid good seasons of us with Negan. It's going to be a while. It really is. Now, I know The Walking Dead likes to introduce new characters and things like that. I really hope that they don't try to rush out All Out War just so they can get to the Whisperer arc and that next season they can introduce that, because I think that's a bit of a big mistake. I think they really need to focus this season on dealing with the whole situation of All Out War, on setting up the different kingdoms, setting them up, coming together with Rick and setting them up so that they will eventually next season go to war with Negan. And I think that's what they're starting to kind of show, especially in tonight's episode. What you noticed is they're starting to hint at a lot of people aren't really down with this situation that's going on with Negan. Even Ezekiel's group, they're not 100% crazy about everything that's going on with Negan's group. Yes, the peace is there, and yes, they are living, for the most part, pretty happily. But it's going to get to a point where a lot of people are going, look, why are we putting up with this? This is crap. We shouldn't be putting up with this guy. You know, we could take care of ourselves. And that's what I'm excited to see. I'm really excited to see the interaction of all the different characters coming together and finally deciding, you know what? We're tired of Negan's group. We are done with them. Let's just go and attack them. Let's go for all out war. Maria Bello is going to be in season 8. Who's Maria Bello? The name sounds familiar, but I'm kind of blanking on it. Is the insinuation that she's going to be the Whisperer Alpha? Because I'm telling you guys, I really, fingers crossed. I'm excited to get to the Whisperers. I really am. But I really don't want to get to the Whisperers that soon. The Whisperers is something you have to build up to. And I'm really, fingers crossed again, I'm really hoping they're not rushing into all-out war where this first half of the season is the build-up to it, and second half of the season when we come back in February or March is all-out war. I'm really hoping that's not where they're going, simply because all-out war, they really need to take their time and set this up and do it right. All Out War was really refreshing in the comics when it was first introduced, because at that time, the comics were starting to get a bit stagnant. You know, people were like dropping off, and they're like, look, it's been great and everything. Then they introduced Negan, and fans were like, oh man, you know, this is Governor 2.0. Then they started really diving into the character of Negan, and fans started going, you know what, there's a lot more here than what we really thought. And then we led into All Out War, and fans just lost their monkey mind. So they did create a new character for it. Yeah, well, they have to introduce new characters every single season to kind of keep things fresh. It's kind of this, every TV show pretty much does it. You know what? There's a lot of people out there that are saying the same thing, that they wish Carol would become Alpha. I don't see that happening. I just don't see that happening. I mean, I can see the fan theory, and I can see the logic behind the fan theory, but I just don't see that happening at all. Yeah, that sounds more like bad fan fiction, in my opinion. Carol is a character that they've done so many great things with her on the TV show. She's, you know, been through so much. She's a badass in her own right. For them to kind of, in a way, neuter her and to make her this other character from the books, I think it takes a lot away from the character that she is. Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I really don't see her becoming Alpha. I think they're just going to get somebody. They're going to get somebody else. They're going to get a really good actress, and then we're going to get our Alpha. But guys, I'm telling you, do not expect Alpha. We're in season 7 until about season 9. I would say you're going to get your Alpha around season 9. There's a promo pic of a head on a stick. Did that worry you early about Whisperers? Is there a I haven't seen that. I think I've said this already. I think All Out War will most definitely start next year. That'll be next season. All Out War will be something that takes the entirety of next season, with the buildup being this season. Remember when people said Daryl would become Dwight? Oh God, yeah, I remember that. There were a lot of rumors out there where people were saying Daryl's going to become Dwight. I think if anybody's going to become Dwight-like from the comics to the TV show, it's going to be Simon. I think Simon's going to be the one that fills in that spot for Dwight. Because the Dwight we're getting in, at least from what we've seen, the Dwight we're getting on the TV show is a little bit different attitude-wise than the Dwight in the comics. The Dwight in the comics seemed more confident. He seemed more like you could actually see this guy taking over the Saviors if he had to. Stephen Ogg's character, Simon, seems more that character in the series. And again, I'm telling you guys, go back to last week's episode and watch the scene where Negan addresses Dwight after the events that happened. Negan addresses, not Dwight, Negan addresses Simon after the events that happened. Simon has this weird look on his face like, oh God, are we really doing this? Are we really going through with this? This doesn't seem right. Or maybe I'm just reading too much into the character, or maybe I'm just reading too much into the actor, but Simon Ogg is a really good Simon Ogg, oh my goodness. Stephen Ogg is a really good actor, so. You want people to hate Negan more? Make him kill Daryl. They're done. They will never kill Daryl. They'll never kill Daryl. No. Daryl sells merchandise, okay? Daryl has what I like to call plot armor. He sells too much merchandise. He has a video game after his character. They're not going to kill Daryl. Daryl's a character that's going to make it to the very... You know, I would say they'd kill Rick before they kill Daryl. Honestly, I would say they would kill Rick before they kill Daryl, simply because money. AMC is not dumb. They like money. And Daryl brings in a lot of money. Oh yeah, the video games are terrible. The Walking Dead video games, with the exception of the Telltale games, are pretty terrible. Yeah, Dwight does seem more like a follower rather than a leader in this series. Where in the comics, you kind of got hints that Dwight had tendencies where you could see him become a leader later on in the series, but here, not so much. That seems to be more Simon. Yeah, Daryl is the Aunt May of the Walking Dead TV show, where no matter what happens to Daryl, he won't die. Daryl will simply not die. And they tease it every single season. Is this going to be the season where Daryl dies? Are we going to see Daryl die here? Yada, 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 yada. Okay. Daryl's not going to die. Okay? It doesn't matter how many times you tease it. He's not going to die. I will put money on that. But yeah, overall, guys, I'm going to give this episode a 9. I really enjoyed it. I thought this was a very, very solid episode. Probably, it had for me stronger moments than last week's episode. And I'm going to call it, Ben is probably going to die within... Ben's not making it out of this season. He really isn't. No, we already have a Daryl spinoff show. It's called that motorcycle show that he does for AMC. I don't even know what the hell the name of it is. But yeah, Daryl is not getting a spinoff show. He's not going to die in the comics. He's not going to, I mean, not in the comics. Daryl is not going to die on the TV show, all that good stuff. So I give this episode a 9. Let me know what you guys thought about it. Guys, thank you so much for checking this out. I'm going to be doing another live stream. I do these every Sunday night. Just a quick little live stream with subscribers and with my fans and things like that. I think it's really fun. We get to talk about Walking Dead for a few minutes before I pass out. Check out my Facebook. Check out my Twitter. Check out my Patreon for $1 a month. Get some cool stuff. Love you guys. Have a great night. Bye.